California Congressman Khanna to update us on this dire situation. Congressman, thanks for taking time with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Where are we right now? Power lines are being cut as a preventative measure. Still, it might not have been enough to prevent two of the current fires going on. And there's obviously a big sense of panic and frustration.
Well, we need bold action. PG&E has been a disaster. They are bankrupt. The state needs to take it over as a public utility. It needs to be broken up. We need to have more municipal public utilities to be providing energy. And we need far more investment in the smart grid, in the transmission lines. But the main thing is that the state needs to be bolder in taking over PG&E.
Beyond that, what's going to happen? Obviously we've heard reports that LeBron James couldn't find a hotel room. And people say, well, golly, if that's the case with him, what about these ordinary citizens who are either homeless, whether it's temporary or in some cases permanently?
Well, it's a big issue. I mean, there are people in my district that have been impacted by the power outages, and of course the fires have been a disaster in the damage they've done. We need to have more federal resources in the state to fight these fires as fast as we can. We also need proactively more forest management to clear brush and to have the fires that are responsibly done so that we can prevent these kind of mass fires that are taking place.
You know, it's interesting because you mentioned federal funding, and I know the Trump administration has talked about the very issue you just brought up with management, forest management. Why is there such pushback against some suggestions, to get rid of some of these things that go, that light up almost instantaneously and to mitigate this issue?
There isn't, in terms of clearing brush or in terms of having actual managed fires that clear out the danger of broader fires. I think that there's a recognition that we need to do more of that, and that there wasn't enough investment in that for the past 20 years. Where there is pushback is that we shouldn't just be clearing the trees for logging interests or commercial interests, but in terms of responsible forest management, of course we need to do a better job on that.
California is not just the wildfires. It feels like your state is in a lot of trouble. In fact, there's a new Census Bureau analysis that says income inequality rising sharply in California. The gap between the rich and the poor is actually getting wider. You got the homelessness situation, high gas prices. California, I know you're a Bernie guy. California is sort of the progressive state. It's also a petri dish of sorts. And right now it feels like the experiment is failing.
Well, Charles, we also are responsible for the most economic contribution to the country. I mean, we are 15% of the GDP of the United States, and I couldn't imagine our economy if you didn't have Apple, Google, Intel, the semiconductor industry, the electric vehicle industry.
But how do you share that, sir, with the rest of the folks in the state, and then by the same token, say to the rest of the United States, hey, this is how our country should be. We should have shared prosperity, but you're not doing that in your own state.
We have to do a better job in terms of providing funding for public education. We have to do a better job in allowing for health care. I mean, we are pushing for Medicare for all that would be able to do that. We need to do more for public school education. But what California's example should show is that we need these basic investments to deal with income inequality, and that's what Bernie Sanders has been talking about.
Congressman, always appreciate your honesty and always have great conversations with you, no matter how you feel.
I always appreciate being on.
Thank you, sir.